Guns and guns and guns and guns, haroo! Haroo! It's Loathsome Things, a horror movie podcast where Josh didn't know that those were the words to the song, and I'm still not sure they are. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing quite well. I'm not sure. I know that it was really fucking annoying, and they made sure and sang it more than once.
Yes, yeah.
Also, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Super prepared for the episode today. That
good.
was not the thing that just came to my mind because I was thinking about the movie. That was all planned.
Great.
And what is the plan? What are the movie that we are talking about that the listener don't know about?
Oh man, I'm so glad you asked. This go round, this is our 70th film that we'll be covering. Jesus
Nice.
Christ.
Yes.
And what we will be covering is Perry Blackshear's They Look Like People from 2015. Yes. Thank you, Perry.
Good job, Perry.
Well done, Mr. Perry.
Yeah, this is the first of 3 movies that I like to think of as a trilogy. They might not actually be a trilogy, but it's his first full-length film. The second film is called The Siren. It stars the exact same actors. It's basically the exact same story, except it's in a lake. And then the next one is When I Consume You, which, again, basically the exact same actors. There's a little bit more of a different actor in there, and it's not the same story, and I have a hard time following that movie. But all 3 are kind of like What If a Monster movie, but more about the vulnerability and challenges of the minutia of actual human existence. And it's pretty cool. I like what Perry Blackshear is putting out there.
I agree. I mean, this is this is easily a genre that could fall flat on its fucking face, or subgenre or however you want to put it. But he does a great job with this movie. I haven't seen the other 2. I just watched the trailers. They look good. They look. They're a step up maybe in production. Not that this movie looks bad. It just looks bare bones. Yeah. But it looks fine. I mean, it doesn't. It's suitable for the story. And he does a great job. I mean, I think that it's not. Is it my favorite horror movie? No, but it's a good one. And as far as this genre, it's probably going to be one of the better ones. I mean, what's the 2 guys of the names I always forget that have done the kind of super paranoid like buddy movies, and now they've kind of broken into Hollywood a little bit.
Yeah, you're talking about the ones where they have, like the one where the one guy's a junkie and he's on a mattress and his friend. Yeah, I can never remember their name.
It kind of reminds me of that, like kind of this indie rock version of, or didn't you say like mumblecore horror or something?
Yeah, mumblecore is like the general vibe of like this era and style of filmmaking where it's like super. I guess intimate camera work and not clearly spoken dialogue, and
very, very mild on the production values. Intentionally, kind of reminds me of the Dogma movement, the Danish Dogma movement, where you weren't allowed to use external lighting and you weren't allowed to use music, and everything had to be just the story itself. Everything happens on that that is happening on screen it's all almost like a linear, just it's like a what was the term they used? It was basically forcing themselves to minimize the production value, just as some sort of a vow of purity, essentially. And this is kind of like that, except without any of those values being pushed. It's just a cheaply produced film. I mean, they didn't have a lot of money. They had a cool story, and apparently they hired an absolute total fucking genius to do the sound design, because the sound design on this film is absolutely top notch.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a character. It's probably the best character, to be honest.
It's the New York of this movie.
Yeah, it's the sound design in this film is by far the best performance.
Yeah, I didn't even realize it because all of the times that I'd watched it until the very last time when I took my notes, I was just watching it on a TV with speakers, and then actually watching it with headphones, I was like, wow, this movie is like an entire immersive experience, which I should have figured because the movie is also a little bit up its own ass about sound.
It is.
So I should have figured that he was like, oh yeah, I'm doing cool shit with sound. You're not paying close enough attention, my guy.
It was cool because it was relatively subtle. I mean, there are times where it's, more overt, but I mean, there's always a little something going on, like traffic going on in the background, cars whooshing by. And then when a moment gets really tense, suddenly there are no cars whooshing by. And then when the guy returns to some sense of normalcy, the cars just kind of swell back in, or there's a clock ticking in the background. It did a good job with that.
Yeah. A lot of really good work went into this. So Perry was the writer, director, cinematographer, and executive producer on this and the other two films in this sequence. All of them starring the same three actors. You've got McLeod Andrews as Wyatt, Evan DeMoschel as Christian, I don't know if that's how it's pronounced, and Margaret Ying Drake as Mara, whatever.
Yeah, I called the Evan DeMoschel character Dollar Store Chris Pine.
Oh, but I like him so much more than Chris Pine.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Honestly, though, I just refer to him as Muscles throughout my description, and the other guy as Beardy.
Yes. Oh, man, you will like the Siren way more because Beardy gets even more beardy. Like in this one, he's scruffy, and that one, he's like full-blown, pube face.
I mean, they're relatively good-looking people, so they're not horrible to look at, which is always a nice thing. They don't have movie star faces, but they have memorable faces, and it helps because you're going to spend 80 minutes listening to them mumble. They better at least look good.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's one of the things that holds this movie together is charm. If the actors were not charming and engaging on screen, this movie would just be the worst thing ever. But they're not. That's true. They're charming, they're engaging, you're like all three of them, like you're rooting for them, you're worried about them, you can laugh at their stupid things and enjoy them. You could probably imagine being friends with any of them.
Yeah, I thought there was, a reasonable amount of depth in the characters. I mean, he didn't go overboard because he didn't need to. Yeah. It's very much a genre film, but there is some character development, which is always appreciated. And they were written well, which is even more appreciated. So, you've got, I mean, we'll get into it, but I thought it was cool the way that Christian had a mix of, he's this guy who's kind of turned his life around from being seen as a super nerd. Now he's like Mr. Muscles, but he's still extremely timid, and that really plays into this story heavily. The other guy's a little bit more one-dimensional. He's a little bit more of kind of like your typical paranoid weirdo, but he also, as you mentioned, adds a lot of charm to the characters, some humor, and which is cool because they do a really good job of having these light moments that still feel threatening.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let's not bandy about much longer. John, why don't you start us off with the summarizing the first quarter of the movie?
Excellent. Well, Beardy wakes up in the middle of the night next to a lady who's got her back of her head, like her back's turned to him. She rolls over to face him, and her face is completely blacked out. You can just see the only part that's lit is kind of like the outer contour of her head. You hear a fly buzzing, and you get the title credit. And then immediately after that, you get this kind of like a montage sort of deal where it's like Beardy is traveling through New York. He's supposed to meet someone apparently. Then we see Muscles. He's working out in the gym. Then he's at work and he's smiling at this lady. And then he's commuting, and then Muscles is listening to really horrible self-help bullshit when he runs into Beardy very awkwardly on the sidewalk. And they have an incredibly awkward reunion. He invites Beardy, who is an old friend. I think they're like old best friends. You learn about it more later. But he invites him up to see his apartment because it's really nice.
Oh, yeah.
And he gives him the tour of his bare bones apartment, but still a nice place. I mean, for New York, it had to be like $10,000 a month or something.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a badass basement. And by badass, I mean, general dilapidated horror movie basement.
Yeah.
They crack a bunch of shit jokes. They head up to the roof and stare longingly at the skyline. They get back in more awkward conversation. We find out that Beardy's girlfriend cheated on him and split, so that wedding was off. In the meantime, Muscles gets a reminder on his phone that he's got a date with Mara, and he tries to invite Beardy along with him, but Beardy's like, no, I don't want to be a third wheel. And so he convinces him to stay the night, and because where else are you going to stay? So he's like, it's very awkward. It's a little difficult for me at the beginning there. Muscles is showering. He's talking to himself. Calls himself a mountain. Tells himself not to be a little bitch.
You are a mountain.
It's so weird. Meanwhile, Beardy has fucked off down into the basement where he is duct taping a knife under a work table. Great. And then later they meet back up after Muscles has finished his shower. And like all good friends, Muscles has Beardy shave his back. Then Beardy puts on some pants, realizes they're not his pants because Muscles gave him pants to wear, and then they're off. On the way, Mara calls and says that the girl that she's with, her friend that she's bringing along, has to go to the hospital. So they meet up with these girls. Her name's Sandy. Apparently she slipped on the ice. There's no ice anywhere, but she slipped on the ice, fell, and hit her face. Beardy plays doctor by pulling out his cell phone and shining his flashlight on her face so we can see the makeup effects, and very wisely says, you should have a doctor look at that. So they're off to the hospital, where we see them sitting there waiting in some crazy, wacky three people bored in a hospital scene with some really serious chant music going on. They have a little bit of chit-chat. Somebody goes to get some snacks. Finally, they leave. I guess the girl's okay. She's going to be okay, whatever. She's still there. Okay, they leave without her. Muscles and Mara share a awkward no-kiss moment. And then he takes off into the subway. And she's going to catch a cab. Great. At home, Muscles starts liquoring up and starts telling Beardy that he wants to see if he can maybe get him a job. Which, I mean, that sounds like a really solid idea. He tells him that he's going to stay over until he gets the day of his upcoming job interview arrives, which I'm sure there is no such thing. It's fine. Beardy has another dream, but this time when she rolls over, we hear these really disgusting sound effects and like meat being slapped or something. I don't know. It's really gross. And you just see her face move just a little, like, just warp a little bit, and then that's dream scene over. But it was cool. He wakes up because his phone is buzzing. It's in the middle of the night. It's this ridiculously low, like, a digitally affected, I guess, male voice, ordering him to go to the basement, and that he needs to prep because the aliens are coming, and he needs to get ready, he needs to leave town tonight, and he's about to get one more order, and then he gets cut off. Now Beardy is now the next day, he's outside calling Dr. Calvino to move our meeting to tomorrow. So that happens. In the meantime, Muscles is spying on him. It's not in the morning, that's still at night. Muscles is spying on him out the window. Great. Yeah. Muscles in the morning has copied his keys, leaves some keys for him, pulls out a bill where he owes $35,000 on.
Wow, I didn't even catch that.
I guess it's his mortgage. I don't know what the fuck.
Jesus.
He awkwardly pretends to pal around with Beardy over some AM coffee. Beardy eats a PB&J. Great. Later, alone in the apartment, because Muscles has gone off to work, Beardy is snooping around. He gets down in the basement. He's got a big bag of tools. He's fondling a hammer, snooping around some more, and in a box of photos, he finds a photo of himself and his open mouth orifice-faced ghoul, which was probably supposed to be his girlfriend. Okay,
his girlfriend.
It's disturbing, but it's also been used. That kind of image has been used to death now. Muscles is going about his terribly dull day while we hear more self-help stuff. Back to Beardy, who's taking an extremely paranoid subway ride to a lake out in the middle of nowhere where he meets Dr. Calvino. They talk about how Beardy is sober, they talk a little bit about his failed relationships in his life, romantic and otherwise. Beardy requests meds, tells the doctor about a, quote, dream he has about certain people around not being human. It's one of those, it's a dream, Dr. Calvino, not real. So, yeah, and then he's extremely paranoid. As Dr. Calvino turns away to write down a phone number on his business card, Beardy starts hearing the buzzing fly sound and clearly thinks that the doctor is an alien. So when Beardy takes off, he throws the card in a little trash can along the way. It's it's a nice little paranoid atmosphere being built up here.
Yeah. I also like the detail that that his psychiatrist or psychologist or whatever is terrible at his job. Like it's like yeah, that's fine. No, I won't tell anyone. I won't tell your parents. I won't. That's fine. We'll just come back to my office later on. It'll be great. It's fine.
Yeah, I like how he conducts patient visits as if these guys are sharing secrets about the federal government or something like that.
I know, this totally looks like one of those movies where a guy has a folded up newspaper and there's something important in there.
It's like Dr. Calvino, spook.
Yeah, he's like, oh yeah, it's fine. I'm just gonna let Captain Warning Signs over here go back into the world.
Captain Warning Signs.
Then at work, Christian and Mara spend time in an ASMR room, which is just in their office, but she didn't realize was in their office.
Yeah.
That's fine. As she implies that that Christian may get a promotion on Friday, and then they go for a walk where she absolutely obliterates him to show him how good at judo she is.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Back in the basement, Wyatt is prepping. He has axes, rope, and he pulls out the Chekhov's nail gun, as I like to call it.
Nice.
While the voice in his head is talking about Golgotha and how that's not a coworker, it's a demon you must be ready to destroy. Later, Christian and Wyatt are going to go play basketball. Christian's talking about how he used to get pushed around at work all the time, but now he started dominating. And Wyatt starts vetting Christian about whether he'd be, like, able to stand up if it came down to it or whatever, and Christian's not really like picking it up, and he's just like, yeah, I think if someone put a gun on me, I'd be like a badass about it.
Nice.
So they're not on the same wavelength about everything, and then they get drunk and they play Blobby Wars, which I'm not going to tell you what Blobby Wars is. You should go watch this movie and experience Blobby Wars for yourself. I've got to say, it looks like fun.
Looks like something we might play at work.
Followed by a game that we basically did play at work, which was a sockball battle.
So good.
And I like it, like, he's like, no, I have a gauntlet. He's put a sock on his arm. He's like, it's a gauntlet. If I catch it in my gauntlet, it doesn't hit me. Like, yes, that makes sense. I've played, in Boy Scouts, I played a game like that, but instead of throwing socks at each other, we were beating the shit out of each other with sticks. And one of my friends put on a little tiny leather archery glove and is like, if I catch it in my hand, it hasn't hit me.
Brilliant.
And then we beat the shit out of his hand.
Because it wasn't hitting him. Oh, boy. Children are terrible.
I know. Then Wyatt dreams about a gas-masked figure creeping up behind Christian and trying to rip his head open. And then he wakes up to a call at midnight. It's from a female voice. It sounds like Mara, who tells him the monsters are vulnerable to acid and that he can tell when the war has started when he hears 3 claps of thunder in the clear sky. She says it's easy to kill a monster, but not to kill a monster that looks like a friend or a harmless innocent. Woohoo! We're getting going.
Yeah, very specific.
Yeah, so after tooling around in the basement some more, he comes back up. He's hearing little skittering noises. This was where the headphones came in really, really handy. Little skittering noises, and so he hears something, he sees something, he jumps at it and punches it, and it turns out it was Christian, because this is the real world, and feels bad about it, tries to play it off. Christian's still drunk, or maybe hungover. And then leaves for work, because it is, in fact, the morning. Wyatt heads back to the basement and thinks about killing himself, puts the nail gun in his mouth, doesn't do it, then goes to nail his hand to the table, but it turns out that he hadn't set up the nail gun properly, so even after he pulls the trigger, it doesn't work. We're getting some real Wyatt struggling internally. We even see him. He's sitting on the bed. His hand is like resting on his lap. Weird. He's obviously despondent and experiencing internal turmoil, which this movie kicks ass at its representation of people with mental trouble,
Mm-hmm.
and painting them as human beings struggling with what they're going through rather than just monsters.
Yeah.
After that, he goes back down to the basement, figures out how to remove the safety mechanism from the nail gun so that he can shoot it without pushing it down onto the board, sees that it's a real goddamn powerful nail gun, and then goes up to the roof and practices aiming it at the people walking on the street below as he hears the evil fly noise swell up around him.
Yeah, that is a remarkably powerful nail gun.
Yes.
I was like, Jesus, I must have paid top dollar for that thing.
Yes.
Muscles is in the one of the 2 rooms, the only 2 rooms that are at their workplace, the ASMR room and the giant empty meeting room. He's talking to Mara. She's acting really weird, and she immediately spouts out that no, he didn't get the promotion, and also he's getting fired.
Jesus.
He tries to play it off like he's cool about it, which is clearly bothering him. He goes to his desk to go get his shit, and stuck to his monitor is a "Great job dominating, asshole," and it's signed by everyone.
I love that shot where then he's looking around the room to figure out who did it, and there's like some people that are smiling and other people that are just looking at forward at their monitor as hard as possible.
I must look at my monitor right now.
Oh God.
Back in the basement, Beardy wants to test out. Well, he goes to a convenience store or whatever, but goes to a store and buys some sulfuric acid. Asks the guy, reminded me of the Boogey Man when they're talking about tea in that store. He asks the guy about, well, if I pour this on somebody's face, what would happen? It would probably melt their face off. I would recommend not doing that. Very similar to Don't Let It, or whatever the hell it was called, where she goes to the chemist or whatever, and he talks to her about preserving her slice of flesh.
Yes, this movie has big dance my pill vibes.
That's a dance my pill. So he takes the sulfuric acid back to the basement and pours it on a giant slab of bacon. And it makes sizzly sounds and steams up, and all of a sudden Muscles shows up and comes down into the basement to let Beardy know that he's been fired. And somehow he's like, all he says is, "What's that smell? It smells like shit." And then they go back upstairs. Beardy wants to talk to Muscles about something, but suddenly there's a knock on the door, and it's Mara. Muscles wants to try to hide, but Beardy basically convinces him to open the door. So they open the door. She's at the door with a bottle of peach schnapps, which she had explained earlier had some thing about work, and when people lose their job, they get peach schnapps. I don't remember what it was.
It was he gives a bottle of peach schnapps to every like cute girl whenever they start at the job.
That's what it was.
And so someone told her that about her bottle of peach schnapps, and she was like, yeah, I threw it away. And it's part of their weird little, like, am I flirting with you, or am I being a total dick to you that they always do to each other?
Yeah, that's true. So she shows up with the hate schnapps, and they all sit around. He doesn't want her to come in, but then he feels bad, so she comes in, and they sit around eating sheets of seaweed, and then take out. They have some hearty chortling where they're sitting on the couch going... And then they chat about Asimov, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And then it dawns on me that Mara has a child's voice and that I want to strangle her because of it.
Oh, no.
She's just like, well, my other favorite was Lord of the Rings. And I'm like, oh, God. Give her more seedweed.
Seedweed.
Suddenly, Muscles bolts out the door to go to the convenience store in the Boogey Man because he wants to buy tea. And then, tea. That leaves Mara and Beardy back at the house talking, which is a great idea. They talk about how he asks her if she ever hears things, and she says, yes, I, on a fairly regular basis, hear choir sounds in my head, which was really weird. Then he says, oh, has Muscles given you a tour of the basement and the roof yet? And she's like, no, he hasn't. And so they go down to the basement where he pretty much goes full fucking crazy and is pressing her for the alien war info because it's her voice that's calling him in the middle of the night. For some reason, she's just not into this whole thing, which I can't figure out. And to the rescue, Muscles shows up. Well, she leaves because she's freaked the fuck out. Muscles shows up. Beardy is still in his full-on paranoid mode. He's got his tools all packed. He's got a note that he wrote for Muscles, which is, pretty much laying it all out there. That it ends with, trust me. And they have a bit of a confrontation, and then things cool down. Beardy, again, is woken. It's nighttime now. He's woken with a buzzing phone. We've got the Mara voice. You're too late, soft boy.
Yeah.
And then starts insulting him. It's a pretty cool phone call, actually.
One of the things the voice says is that they're going to rip him open and spread him out like a red tree. And I was like, oh, fuck yes, dude.
And then right before that she hangs up, you hear, I love you, Wyatt. It's very threatening. Next morning, Muscles is cooking some eggs. Beardy's still talking crazy. Muscles is really, really trying hard to be there for his friend. He really trusts this dude, which is cool. I like the way it's portrayed. I mean, you really get the impression that these guys go way back because there's no other reason why anybody would bend over like that for you. Anyway, so then we hear that Muscles confesses that he once tried to commit suicide, and he has already made an appointment for Wyatt to go visit his shrink. Wyatt starts talking to I put neck brace. Wyatt chats with neck brace about his paranoia. It's the girl that fell on her face. Anyways, she threatens him for being crazy to Mara down in the basement and basically says, if you ever do anything like that again, I will kill you. I mean, I will kill you. I will kill you. That's not playing into his phobias at all. So he's got his appointment set up. Great. He, let's see, back at the house. Whoa. Back at the house, Muscles is kind of having a little bit of a meltdown himself. He's burning an M&M with as he eating M&Ms and burning one, gets pissed off, knocks a bunch of shit off the table. Back to Wyatt. He basically ambushes Mara on the street while she's walking down the sidewalk, and he's trying to get her to help Muscles. He's worried, he feels bad because he, fucked up his chances. To thank him for that, she punches him in the face, judo style, and he falls to the ground in a bloody heap, and she's apologizing. She takes him to that meeting room at her work.
Yeah.
Which was like, what? I guess that's where she was going, so she just took him there? I don't know.
I'll do first aid at my office. Oh yeah, this is just a guy I punched after he threatened me with lunacy.
That's kind of strange. She's gonna clean his blood up. She's got blood on her sleeve and stuff. While they're there, he starts hearing he suddenly drifts into scared mode, and you hear the flies, and we see her hands in a big pool of blood with her fingernails, so it's her hands, I guess. Whatever. It's weird. And then he looks up at her face, and her it's really cool. Her pupils basically roll up into this weird angle and then up out until she's just got white eyes. And he freaks the fuck out. So, that was cool.
Yeah.
I like that. It was
a little cheesy. Special effect.
Yeah. But it looked good, it was effective. It got the point across, put it that way.
Yeah. And then it skips forward, and now a pink, swollen-eyed Wyatt shows up back at the house and says that he and Christian should get out of town and maybe go hang out by a lake.
Yeah.
Christian is signing up for the army when this happens, and then he just gets on board and he's like, yeah, all right, I want to know I want to help fight. As long as you promise not to kill anyone, I want to figure out how to help you fight this, whatever this is. And so they're loading up a car. Christian realizes, hey, where'd you get this car? Because he's looking in the back. It looks like it's the car of some real estate mom, and there's an enormous screwdriver sticking out of where the keyhole is. And then as they're loading up this car, Wyatt hears 3 thunderclaps, and the sky is clear, so he realizes that the war has already started. He's like, let's go back inside, it's too late. So they go down to the basement, they don their outfits from the movie The Crazies, which I appreciated. And then as they're getting ready and Christian's just going along with it, he's all gung-ho, and Wyatt's taking it very seriously. He starts to hear the evil flies and realizes that maybe Christian is one of them. He doesn't say this, and he's just like, Christian, stop it. And Christian's like, you think I'm one of them? All right, what do we do? And so he offers to be tied up. He's like, you know what? He says, quote, it's really scary to trust you right now, but that's what this is, so trust me because I trust you. So Wyatt ties him to a chair, gags him with a sock, covers his head with a paper bag, and waits with an open bottle of sulfuric acid. He tells Christian to stop singing, things get quiet. Christian's body goes limp, the lights go down. Wyatt can see and hear Christian's head moving around menacingly in the bag. The voice in his head starts saying, that is not a human, not a neighbor, not a friend, not a lover, a brother, mother, a father, a wife. That is a monster. That is your enemy, and that is what you must be ready to destroy. All the while, the sounds of Christian's head is making in the bag get all slurpy and meat poppy like you were talking about earlier. Wyatt holds the open bottle of acid dangling over Christian's head. He sees the sock that he gagged Christian with on the floor, but now it's soaked in blood and there's bright white teeth loose around it. It's all getting bad. He freaks out. He takes the gas mask off. He pulls the bag off of Christian's head. The lights come back on, and it's just Christian, still gagged, almost but not quite crying. Wyatt laughs, ungags Christian, unties him. They hug. Movie over.
Movie over. Meme, and then they show a meme on the screen. It's a picture of the two of them, and it says, "Find someone who loves you like Muscles."
Nice. So yeah, that's the movie. It's There's one special effect. Other than that, it's all lighting, all sound design, all excellent cinematography and staging, and I would say about 75% excellent acting.
Yeah, there's some, particularly early on, there's some real awkwardness. It's also possible that was intentional, at least to a certain extent. But even still, there's a way to act awkwardness, whereas this just feels like these guys really do kind of feel a little bit awkward. But they have genuine chemistry, so, and the movie, it doesn't really take away. I mean, the movie, the story flows really well. For something that's slow paced, for me, I never felt bored. And it's a cool little movie, to be honest. I had seen it before, but I obviously wasn't paying complete attention because there was a lot of stuff, particularly in the later part of the film, that I was not remembering. So it's possible I didn't even finish it. And I'm glad you picked it because it was a lot of fun. I was worried. I was like, God, what if I remembered it poorly? And then we just did the Boogans, which is like a complete pile of shit. And then we picked another pile of shit, but we didn't. You picked a fine film. It was only myself who picked the pile of shit.
I was worried. I even talked about it when we were recording the Boogans episode. I was like, but maybe it sucks? I don't even know. I think the Boogans just makes you doubt everything.
The Boogans it's catastrophically terrible. It should just vanish. It doesn't even deserve to be around. It's terrible.
Yeah. Big shout out to Loathsome fan Ramon for starting a petition to force me to lower my score on the Boogans.
So good. I signed it, my wife signed it, and you signed it.
Yes.
I love how I can't even get my friends to get on board with my dumb jokes. No, it wasn't my joke, it was Ramon's joke. But I can't even get my friends. Like, I don't have any friends. It's really kind of sad. I don't even have a Wyatt or a Christian. No, I'm just talking bullshit. If you had to give this film a rating, Yash, from I'd say from 0 to 5 loathsome things, how many loathsome things might thou depart with? I don't know.
Oh, like a tax. I like it. So I think this movie is top notch. Mm-hmm. I think there are some problems with it. But I gave it a 4.8 out of 5.
Wow.
Yeah, I love this movie. That's higher than I gave the movie Men, and the same score as I gave Night of the Living Dead. So I want to highlight some flaws. Mostly the camera work is great. Every once in a while, the camera work is distracting. Like, there are a few moments where the camera makes itself known in a way that feels more like The Office than this kind of movie. Kind of like what's his name? Is it Bill Gunn? Is that the name of the director? He did Ganja and Hess.
I can't remember.
He would do stuff like that where like the actor's hair would even like brush up against the camera and stuff like that, which was great for what it was doing, and I feel like maybe Perry Blackshear was like influenced by that, but at times it just didn't work here. So that was one thing. I thought that I mean it looked good, but I would have loved to have seen this movie without the facial distortion special effect, because everything in this movie was done without special effects. It was all just lighting and makeup and stagecraft and camera work and acting. I agree. And it would have been great if he just like stuck the landing and hadn't have done that. I understand why he did it. I don't think it added to the movie as well or as much as what the doing of that subtracted from it. But other than that, I thought it was great. I love the isolation. I think one of the things that it hit on was the attempt to find someone to share isolation with. So we see that with Wyatt and Christian, and we also see it with Christian and Mara. Like he has her come into the whisper room with him, and it's these people that are just trying to find a little thing where they can be alone but also be with someone, and I think it's really brilliant. He did a lot of things. I love the sincere human element, the vulnerability that we don't often get in horror movies. Normally in horror movies, the vulnerability is that you are a pile of meat and you are vulnerable to knives and teeth, whereas here we're seeing complex human inner lives being vulnerable to the predations of the human condition, and I think that is splendid. Also, the way that he handles mental illness is unlike anything else that I've ever seen in a horror movie, and I applaud it entirely.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah, I gave the movie a 3.32, which...
Damn!
I liked it, but I felt like it was a little slow to get off the ground for me. As I had mentioned, kind of the awkwardness of the performances really kind of took me out of it a bit for the first maybe half hour. There were moments where, as the movie went on, I got more used to it and it didn't really bother me. But early on, maybe first half even, when they were trying to like pal around with each other, it just felt so like, what? These guys fucking hate each other. Like, I just didn't, I didn't understand the dynamic. They didn't, he kind of lays the groundwork for Christian being someone who is, surprisingly emotionally vulnerable as well. But it doesn't really flesh that out until later. So he's just, it's like, okay, he's supposedly had some sort of a conversion, but the only real sign of that is that he's kind of handsome and has muscles. I mean, yeah. He's pretty vulnerable pretty much from the start, and his attempts to, be a friend to... I mean, he obviously loves Wyatt like crazy, and he essentially would do anything for the guy from what we see. And I thought that was cool. I thought it was touching because it was actually handled really well. I wish... No, I don't have any problem with that at all. That part was great, but it was a little bit awkward for me. There were times where I thought the performance was a little... and, yeah. That's kind of stuff kind of took away from me. So... Like, for me, there were acting moments that were really good. There were acting moments that were really bad. And so, it's just like, how do you score that? So I just gave it a 2.5 right in the middle kind of thing. Yeah. But, other areas like the sound was, top rating. The acting was probably the thing I rated the lowest. It was. But overall, I did like this movie. It's the kind of movie that I probably won't watch again because I don't need to. I mean, yeah. It's even though it feels kind of slow paced, at the same time, there really is a lot that happens. It's just that it's presented in a more, I was going to say organic, but that's not really the exact word that I'm trying to look for, but natural way. It doesn't have a Hollywood or, it's not going for that kind of feel at all. It's not self-conscious about, it's pizzazz or whatever the fuck they do in Hollywood films that always, it's like as soon as you watch one, you're watching one because they're just glossy. Yeah. That shit's just not here. But not, it doesn't hurt it. It's not like it looks like shit or anything. It just doesn't, it's its own thing, which I thought was really cool. But yeah, I liked it. I didn't love it, but I did like it. So anyways, yeah.
It could be intentional, but like, especially the guy who played Wyatt, maybe it was just that I was rewatching it so many times. Like, I know that there were points where it was supposed to deliberately be awkward, mm-hmm. but like, in rewatching it, I was like, I hate this part. Like, whenever he was like, I knew I got my axe for something, I was like, ooh, no, don't say that ever again. And then, I have to watch this movie again and hear him say it again.
Yeah, it was, yeah, exactly. Oh, by the way, the director, the director had a cameo as Polish guy or something like that, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah, I don't remember who Polish guy was.
I didn't either. That was weird. I don't know. Nobody stuck out as. I mean, he wasn't like, "Hey, you want pierogi?" Like there was none of that.
maybe he was the guy that ran the hardware store, because that guy really felt like just a guy they found at a hardware store.
That could be. Hey, you like sulfuric acid? How about the band Behemoth?
Hey, why don't you get it on your face?
Oh my God.
Polish.
Yeah, from Poland.
Yeah. So the movie after this, the next one, The Siren, is about the actor that plays Christian falls in love with the actor who plays Mara, and the actor who plays Wyatt thinks that Mara is a monster.
But she is a monster, right? I mean, she looks like a monster in the trailer. She's a legit siren, I guess.
Yes, yeah. She eats people and collects their baubles.
Fantastic.
Spoilers.
I'm curious to see what Blackshear is going to do next. He's got a movie in pre-production called Mindful.
Yes.
I didn't look into it at all. I just saw that from IMDb. But this is a really talented director, and it's unfortunate that these actors really haven't done a whole lot outside of this. I mean, Evan Dumichel was in Dr. Sleep, but I'm sure it was probably a tiny role. I certainly didn't remember it, but I wouldn't have had any reason to.
So was McLeod Andrews. They were both in Dr. Sleep.
He was in Dr. Sleep as well. Wow. I mean, other than that, like McLeod and Andrews he's done a bunch of anime voiceover stuff. No? Animorphs, that's what it was.
Yes. And he's been doing the Animorphs audiobooks.
That's it. That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to listen to him, but kids would love it. Margaret Ying Drake, also, I wanted to point out, has provided her voice talents for a show called Bubble Guppies.
Yeah. It fits.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think all three of them are great. They should get more work than they do. I mean, there were little moments where, like, maybe one didn't stick the landing in my very inexpert view, but honestly, I feel like it's a little bit of a Hollywood crime that these people aren't getting more work than they're getting.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that these people, when they made this film, I'm fairly certain that these actors did not have a ton of cinema experience, but, under their belt. That's something you have to learn. And I don't know what their background is as far as if they came up in theater or, whatever. But, I mean, making a film is a whole different thing, and trying to present a character that doesn't just come off like something on paper, it's got to be really difficult. And they did a good job.
Yeah, that movie that he's directing, Mindful, I'm half looking forward to it and half dreading it. All three of his movies, which they've all been good, he's written, directed, executive produced the whole shebang. This one, other people wrote it, other people are producing it. He's just coming on to direct, and it's about a meditation app that is possessed and wants to kill people.
Oh, that's original.
Yeah, I know. And it is produced by and starring Jenny Slate, who I really enjoy Jenny Slate, but the fact that it is starring and produced by, I'm like, yeah.
Interesting. That's wild.
What's happening? I know.
It's probably, I'm saying, I'm saying that that's something I hadn't heard before jokingly, because there's at least one horror novel that came out recently that's the exact premise, and then it dawns on me that it's probably based on that novel.
Oh, yeah, like maybe a movie about a haunted elevator, which is an original idea.
Oh, Rebecca. Turn it around.
Turn this ship around!
God, you did so well the first time.
It was funny, I just watched Everything Everywhere All at Once yesterday, and I was like, oh, look! Jenny Slate, she's right there.
I love Jenny Slate. I, however, fucking hated that movie.
Oh, for real?
I don't know. I hated it. It was just like, okay, that's okay. Is this over yet?
Yeah, it is a bit long, and the ending, it's a bit much. But
I mean, it's obviously hyperkinetic. That was fun. There's definitely elements I liked, but overall, I hated that fucking movie. I wanted to love it so bad. I love Michelle Yeoh. And speaking of movies, have you seen any or consumed any cool horror media?
I've been mostly watching this and the other Perry Blackshear films, plus...
Oh, okay, this is when you watched it, yeah.
Well, I mean, I'd seen them before, but I hadn't really absorbed them, so I went ahead and rewatched them so I could speak to them. So that's been taking up basically all of my time, except for Everything Everywhere All at Once. But also, I have been reading this little book right here, Bones Deep. It is a role-playing game about skeletons who sink to the bottom of the ocean and have adventures on the ocean floor.
It sounds very interesting and so specific as a basis for an RPG.
It is. It really is. That's my favorite thing about the new wave of RPGs. Instead of it being like, you are an adventurer and you can have any kind of adventure, most new RPGs are like, you're going to have this specific kind of adventure, and we've designed ways for you to explore that kind of adventure. And this is one of them. It's a cool little art house role-playing game.
That's really cool.
About skeletons exploring the ocean floor, and I am digging the book. You should get a copy, all you listeners.
You are a femur. Nice.
Yes.
You are a scapula. Okay. Those are the only bones I can think of.
No, you're playing a whole skeleton.
Oh, cool. Oh, okay, gotcha. Any others?
You're just playing one bone.
I don't know. You are a humorous. I thought that, yeah, it's like your whole team is, like, everybody's a different bone.
We're working together. All 200 and something of us.
It's a real slow-moving game.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna go take a nap. Let me know when it's my role.
That's awesome. Oh, fantastic. What about yourself, John? What horror media have you been consuming and divulging?
I was watching it before we came on, kind of to clear my brain a little bit from this movie. I was watching the Hell House LLC Origins, the Carmichael Manor. That's the latest one. I think it's the 4th. I avoided those movies forever because putting LLC, I don't need to see a horror movie about a limited liability corporation. It just didn't sound very interesting. But it's actually, the first movie is actually really good. And the series is actually pretty well done. I mean, it's cheesy. It's typical kind of modern haunted, like really dark and mean haunted house fare, but it's entertaining. And this movie's no different. And it might be one of the better ones, actually. That's really the only horror movie I watched. Other than that, I've been, again, just listening to a lot of audiobooks, including Luda, which is the first full-length novel written by Grant Morrison, the infamous comic book writer who came up with The Invisibles and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Nice.
I can't remember. He's notorious. He's a great writer. He's extremely talented, Scottish, non-binary, and this book is about a drag queen named Luda who is working on a production of this ludicrous musical, and they hire this actor that she discovers, which is another drag queen, her name is Lucy. Then they bring on this other one named Luda, and it's completely over the top. Like, people start going missing. There's like some sort of weird use of occult, but it's magic that drag queens use called the glamour.
Nice.
It's just crazy. It's a really good book. So I got through that one. That was great. I listened to The Rising by Brian Keene. I think I may have mentioned that one last time, so moving on. Then I listened to the Loney, which is like a folk horror author by a British writer named Andrew Michael Hurley. And it had gotten really great reviews. It's very good. It was a lot of fun. I definitely recommend that. There's a few others, but I guess I'll moving on, speaking of movies, I guess it's time for me to pick the next movie. I did a search online for... I didn't get the movie out of the search, but I did a search online for, like, unusual, like, strange, forgotten horror films, and I pulled up a bunch of stuff. Some of it looked really cool. Orgy of the Dead, 1965, which was like this ridiculous, campy nudie film. I started it. It's fucking terrible. I was like, nope, not doing that. Thesis from 1996, a Spanish film based around like this premise regarding snuff films and stuff. It looked really extreme, but also well made. I started at terrible.
Oh, no.
Went down the line like that. There's a Japanese film called Strange Circus that looks really, really good, and I'd still like to cover that, but the only version I can find is on YouTube, and I'm not going to do that to anybody. Then there's another one called Deathline from 1972 with Donald Pleasance and Christopher Lee. But I was like, we've done a lot of Donnie P movies. And then you mentioned that this episode that you guys are listening to would be on Christmas Eve, I believe.
Yes. Wait, not this one.
Not this one. The next one.
Yeah, the one that you're picking a movie for.
That's what I mean. Yeah. That one will play on Christmas Eve, and so I figured, well, you know what? I should just pick something that's Christmassy. Ooh. Then I went down that rabbit hole. There is a fuck ton of shitty Christmas movies. There's one called Santa Claus from Mexico, made in 1959. That's like the devil and Santa Claus like dueling it out or something. It looked insane.
Fuck yes.
I thought about doing that, and then I was like, MST3K did it. Then there was Elves from 1989, which I can't even... It's like The Boogans meets Christmas or something. I don't know. Then there was some other stuff that I just was like, this is terrible. And then I realized I'm going to pick something that I know is good. I've already seen it. This is a winner. It's a Christmas movie. Rare Exports from Finland. That was made in... I forget, 2000-something. I forgot to write the date. But anyways... It's a movie about a bunch of corporate douchebags in Finland who are excavating Santa Claus. They've discovered that he's been buried 400-something meters in the earth. These children are kind of spying on them in their little locked-up compound, and they tell their folks about it, and they decide that they're going to abduct Santa Claus from these guys and hold him for ransom. But in the meantime, Santa's elves, which you have to see to believe, are pissed off that their leader has been taken. And that's kind of the premise, and it's fucking insane, but it's really well made. The performances are great, and it's a lot of fun. And it's pretty much a Christmas classic, to be honest.
Nice. I've never seen it. That's 2010 is the year.
That's it.
And the director is...
Schorknork Porkendorf.
Jalmari Helander.
Oh, I was close.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyways, I think that'll be a lot of fun. I think we'll both like it. I don't know if we're going to love it or not, but it's entertaining, and it's definitely its own thing.
That's awesome. I'm excited. I don't know if it's been you that's been recommending it to me, but it's been recommended to me several times, and it's about goddamn time that I watch it.
It's a lot of fun. It's available on a bunch of the, like, I think Pluto has it, Tubi has it, so, anybody can watch it for free, and it's a decent, it looks good. Yeah. So it's not going to be some grainy bucket of shit.
Awesome. Anything else we need to clear up before we let our listeners go about their merry, holly jolly way?
By the time you're listening to this, my first ever short story will be published in the Tales of Slay House 2023 anthology. That book's available at Amazon. It's going to be in print and digital. And I just found out last night that a little 100-word short story that I wrote, microfiction, just got accepted for a digital publication from a publisher out of Australia called Dark Hair. And I will put information on the Loathsome Things, social media places. I just found out last night. I just signed the contract right before I came on, so
nice.
I'll be getting $4 for that one.
Hell yeah!
Look out, ladies.
Hey, paid for writing means you're a professional writer. That's fucking awesome.
Well, folks, tune in in 2 weeks, and we will cover Yalmari Haylander's rare exports from 2010. And in the meantime, I believe that we're sorry you all have to eat sulfuric acid covered bacon.